The second game then of the match between Atlas Lions and the Fister Sisters is going to be played on Molde, which should be the home map of the Fister Sisters because they are the second team in here. Looking at the civilizations and the players, we are seeing a bit of a switch as Night Killer is being replaced by Paper Cut. Yeah, well, interesting switch in here. And looking at the switch in the civilization, of course, it's going to be a bit of a support for the aggressive team, as Paper Cut is going to be not plain Ra, but rather Loki, and it's going to be a pretty good complement, I think, to Narvis Loki, who is switching from Oranos as well, so double Loki and Set, and against them we are seeing basically the same, like literally the same. Flash as Thor, Nulgath as Loki, and Zeus is back as Zeus. I guess let's start then with Molde. We are starting with having a look at Joe1244, who is actually in the pocket. And yeah, this is actually interesting spawn. This is even closer, the opponents are even closer than usually they are. This is kind of the feature of Molde. You can see Zeus's back is one side, whereas Narvi is the other team. And you can see they are so close to each other. And they are even having one TC between, or rather amongst themselves, rather, god damn it, how did I want to say it? Between themselves, whatever, something like that. And this is really super close, like super close. And basically the same is true at the top between Flash and his opponent Paper Cut. They are so super close to each other, and they are having a TC between themselves. So there's going to be a very big fight for not only the TC but also for the hunt. You can see it right about now, as Flash was actually attempting, no, not before, to go for the hunt in here, but unfortunately he's a bit too late. And of course, if he went there now, he of course would be fighting against those villagers, and he would quite probably lose. But let's see, because we are seeing the Ulfsark. Maybe he could be attempting to at least slow them down a bit. Oh, did you want to do this? I don't think so. I'm not exactly sure why he's still sending him there. That's probably going to be some wrong waypoint. That's Flash, that's Red player. Oh yeah, oh, he hasn't switched the waypoint. Oh my god. Oh, that's absolutely terrible for his start, of course. He should be moving to the right. He's having at least a few wolfies and some orcs hidden behind. He unfortunately doesn't know about them, but still, he could be going there. Oh man, and you can see right now that he is finally noticing and going somewhere else, and the somewhere else is of course going to be his starting hunt on the right and moving into there, as of course there is some extra one, but unfortunately I'm still certain that he doesn't know about it. Oh man, let's just follow this, because this is going to be very important for the next game. And this could be a pretty huge problem for Flash. So far he hasn't scouted it. He has absolutely no idea that he's basically having hunt literally behind him. And he's running out of anything, so he's going to be switching into chickens. Or is he going somewhere else? Now he's going for the caribous or other elks in the middle, which is of course quite far away. Can be a bit more optimal in there, but probably will be quite fine to be using those animals at the back a bit later. We have of course also seen the spies on basically both of these. So Flash is going to be discovered by Paper Cut, whereas Paper Cut is going to be discovered by his opponent Narvi, who is also Loki. Otherwise, at the bottom we are not really seeing so much interesting stuff, as we are at pretty much normal hunt for Narvi and having berries right next to it, which I'm thinking he might be continuing with, and also a bit of animals right now being targeted by Joel to join his army. Of course, the Wolfies, and I'm fairly certain he's going to be continuing with the Aurochs as well, as they are still pretty good source of food potentially, and not even talking about the potential in the attack. Scouting at the back, of course, trying to see absolutely everything that is happening in there. And, well, interestingly enough, Zeus's back is also having spies on his foodies, as is of course expected, because of the double Lokis on the opponent's team. Right now this is going to be a pretty interesting game really for Zeus's back. He should be basically 1v1 against a Norse, who is already advancing his next age. Narvi is already 29% through, so he's going to be like 430, so pretty much standard advance. So far, one temple still. So he's first walling, and then it actually seems like that he's going to be preparing for a defense, thinking that he's against Zeus, so it's going to be Athena rush against him. But apparently not, and that's going to be very late advance right now, because Zeus is back even though he is still pushing for the economy. That's why he's leading on the score, so he has a lot of resources in his bank. Right now clicking into Athena. Well, Yeah, good luck, because this is going to be like a minute later advance. And that's going to be quite hard to deal with, because of course he's going to be cut off of food. And see, just now Zeus's back is going to be losing exactly this source of food economy, and that's basically going to be stopping his attempts at any kind of Athena rush in its tracks. We are already seeing Shifting Sands, and they overcast yet again, basically the same way as last game, and that's offensively on Flash, who is unfortunately going to be out of hand. And that's of course going to be pretty much the same problem as last game, as of course Norse without the early hand is going to be slowed down quite considerably. This is, I think, a bit of a mistake. There was no reason to kill the Ox card, because if he didn't kill it, it would give him another chance to trade in a bit later. Basically this did its damage. So there was no reason to kill the Ox card. Just don't do it if you don't need to. Because you are giving up the spy, and not only the viewpoint of the enemy economy, but potentially even of something else that the Ox card might be close to. So yeah, pretty decent right now. Attack going on from Joe to 44. But it seems like that it's going to be stopped sometime soon. At least I would be hoping so right now for Atlas Lion's sake. But the army is still not present really. So we could be seeing that purple is, come on, almost ready with the relic. Better building LOS, that's actually pretty great. And we are also seeing the attack on the left exactly as would be expected. And even though Athena is through and we are seeing Archangel Military Academy, it's going to be very hard for the yellow player to defend, because of course he is so far behind, but still he's at least getting the troll, which is definitely a good job by him. Oh, sorry, I'm not sure how I clicked. At any rate, he needs Odysseus. He needs Odysseus most definitely, because whenever you are facing Loki, you need both heroes up as soon as possible. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the economy for the wood. Quite unlucky having some goals hidden at the bottom. Not sure that he even knows about them, probably not. It's a bit of a shame for him, of course, as he could be using them, as he will be running out of food reasonably soon, and he will need all that he can get right next to his own base. We are so far not seeing any research into the towers. Not really ideal right now for yellow, as we are also seeing second DC being captured by Joe, who seems to be quite comfortable with classical fighting, it seems like. So they are probably going to be attempting to actually kill their opponents right in classical. So you also see a bit of interesting gathering of food at the bottom, both yellow and purple, and that's potentially quite dangerous, especially since it's going to be found. It seems like that this Herseer or the one at the bottom should be finding it, and in that case, it's going to be wide open for potential abuse, and of course, yeah, that's a lot of release to kill and a lot of economy to get rid of for the opponents. In the meantime, we are of course seeing that Mulgath is going for a bit of raiding himself, as he's also seeing the villages from the opponent. But his gold is quite close by to the town center, so should be reasonably easy for him to defend. But kinda curiously enough, he is gathering yet another relic, which is for, this is still the same, for the buildings, but for some reason he hasn't deposited it inside his base, even though he was like literally inside his base once we were looking at it first. That's a bit of a shame, because it could also help him in the game, of course. The better building LOS is quite good to defend against any kind of raids. Better cavalry and chariot archer hit points. It's actually pretty great not only for Thor, maybe even Loki if he wants to go for raiding cavalry, but much more importantly, of course, for the chariot archers of the set, which I think would be a better use than for the horses. Yeah, I would definitely think this would be better for Zeus, or rather, for Joe, sorry. In the meantime, Zeus's back seems to be getting his feet under himself with pretty decent army. But is it going to be enough? Because I could be expecting that since the game is developing as it is, that means that Narvi is not losing any kind of units. He might be actually getting ready for Heroic Age. Well, he does have a lot of gold, but he doesn't have the food, like, at all. Which is interesting. He apparently doesn't have any foodies. Wait a second. Oh yeah, here they are. Still gathering right next to the town center. Still having at least a bit of it left, but he needs to be careful, because of course the army from yellow is going to be there pretty soon. But in the meantime, we are seeing a pretty decent raiding by Narvi, Rebek, and Nulgath is going to be losing quite a lot of food economy, as even though Zeus's back is arriving with this army, this should be quite worth it to get rid of all those villages, because of course there is no gate, unfortunately. Nice wall, but unfortunately doesn't help in the defense. And Yeah, the damage has been done, but not enough. I think actually Naru could have taken the battle a bit more and hoped for a bit of spawning of the mythical units in the battle. He actually wouldn't have gotten anything because he's housed. And thinking about the heroic. Well, but he definitely shouldn't be housed all that much. It's really bad for him and might be potentially quite dangerous because not only is he going to be facing pretty decent army by Zeus's back. Yeah, careful yellow. With restoration. And he could be easily killing this small army. He could potentially be getting some extra help from purple, who apparently forgot to shift click after the raiding. So that's raiding actually dealing damage even after it has been finished. And switching to the top, we are seeing that Paper Cut is right now doing a pretty great job raiding on the gold of the red player. So yep, they are basically exchanging the pleasantries because red is also raiding behind the bases with some wolf sarks. A lot of hunts still to be had right now for the Teeth of Death in the back. And it seems like that Joe is actually the only one trying to somehow defend against raidings, which I think is a pretty clever idea because he doesn't have great units for raiding, and his opponents, or rather his allies, do, which means that they have their hands free, and Joe is going to be mopping up at the back. So I'm kind of thinking we might be seeing Ancestors in defense, because this is a pretty big threat from Zeus's back into the Blue's base. And is he still housed? I'm kind of thinking that he still is. Ah, well, he's not really housed all that much, but he's still missing 2 houses still. As we are right now looking somewhere else, and that's, for example, taking the second TCs. Unfortunately for Nulgath, of course, you can see that Joe is paying enough attention. Even though I just a bit earlier said that he doesn't have any kind of units for raiding, Spearmen are fast enough, and of course they are going to be able to disrupt at least this for a moment. Not for long, of course, with all the army, but still, it does count because it helps his team to stall his opponents. In the meantime, Flash is at 2 TCs already, as he wasn't stalled by his opponent. So Green will have to actually regroup, as he's still at just 1, but probably might be taking a second TC sometime soon. He seems to be even aiming for it. Not all that much. But it's looking like that Joe is going to be joining his side, because on the bottom it's almost looking like that Narve is not really interested in help, but I'm fairly certain he's gonna need it pretty soon. Yeah, but he's gonna get lucky with Bragi. But does he have enough army? I don't really think so, especially with the restoration. If it's played correctly, I'm thinking that this will be a pretty big problem for the blue player, and not even the heroic age might be able to save him. Let's see. I would be sending a bit more villages. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to be building the military buildings right in the opponent's base, but he should be getting a bit more numbers. And it would be maybe slightly better to just go for tower spam, something standard. You can see medium toxots. Does he have medium hobbits? Somewhere. No, just normal. Yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Much more importantly, we are missing any kind of minotaurs, which are a very important part of any kind of Athena rush, as of course they are able to tank a whole lot of damage, and that's exactly why you want them in your army, because they usually are targeted by the TCs. And unfortunately, quite nice timing right now by Narve to get into archers, but needs to be a bit more careful. And it's really looking like that yellow will be having a harder time getting rid of this opponent, because of course with all the army right now, well, blue lost most of it now. With all the army at one spot, the flaming weapons might be able to counteract even the strong restoration. Let's see if that's going to be the truth. In the meantime, at the top we are seeing a pretty huge battle, as both purple and red are right now fighting against Joe together with Paper Cut. You can see Joe taking the 3rd TC, which I think is a clever idea, better than Paper Cut, because of course if he takes it, he's going to be able to spend potentially mercenaries, and since he should be having enough gold, he hasn't been raided or anything. And he is even going for a 4th TC. Yeah, that's a bit too greedy, to be honest, at this stage of the game, at 30 minutes. We are going to be switching to bottom, because restoration is right now being used, and, well, that's the most important battle, because, of course, right now, the flaming weapons could be getting rid of the opponent army, and as you can see, they are doing a pretty great job, the blue guys, even through the restoration. Ancestors for the defense, and yeah, that's going to be pretty much for the attack, because I'm fully expecting that Narve will be switching into flaming weapons pretty soon. You can see already having at least upper shields, and he'll be returning the favor of the attack in kind. Yeah, getting rid of 40 souls, that's super crucial to protect the boars and Valkyries and whatever other heroes mythical units, like for example even the Ancestors, and we are seeing in here that he is not going to be finished at the top, whereas it's still on the battlefield. It's looking like that Flash is supplying quite a decent amount of units. The same is true for Nurgat, because they are both at 2 TCs, but same gonna be really true, rather sad for Papercut, who is not having any kind of army in here, but still Joe is able to somehow maintain the presence, and it's looking like that the battle is more or less equal, but definitely could use a bit more heroes to get rid of the pesky trolls in here at the back, because they are a really pretty big problem. Bragi coming in from Papercut, but this is not really any kind of situation for flaming weapons. Whereas at the bottom, we definitely do see a very good situation, as even though towers are up, still they should be pretty much fine. Fortunately ran out of gold a bit earlier, Zeus is back, and we are seeing Bolt being used. Not exactly sure for what, probably missed. He was probably hoping that he will be hitting one of the boars, but he hit Hersir apparently. Unlucky, unlucky indeed. And there is quite interesting hunting right now by Narvi, because he's basically right behind the opponent's base and hoping that it's going to be undiscovered, and I'm thinking that he's going to be quite right, as even though there is armory up from Zeus's back, the heroic age is probably not coming up now, because the boars are going to be dealing with the army without any kind of problem, as two heroes, Odysseus and Jason, are just not enough, especially if Narvi is going to be quite correctly, as he is, singling them out of the battle. Yeah, that's the power of mythical units, and why Zeus needs to use mythical units of his own to get rid of mythical units of his opponent. In the meantime, moving back to the top, we are seeing a, well, basically a stalemate, as it doesn't seem like that either side is going to be moving forward from this battle. Flash seems to be interested in a bit more, basically securing the position held by Nulgath. And are we going to be seeing some heroic ages? We have seen one already from Papercut, so he is basically just waiting for the army to cast the flaming weapons. Otherwise, Flash and Nulgath are still not through. Red is not even going, and purple is, or not. No, he isn't. But he's having a lot of potentially open economy in the middle. Potentially dangerous for some kind of raiding by chariot archers that Joe might be wanting to undertake, but so far isn't, as Zeus's back is at 2 DCs. That's fairly new from him. He has been able to capture the one at the back, whereas Narvi is at 2 as well. He has retaken one, other taken a TC in the front. You can see, yeah, that was pretty close by to him, and of course that means that the yellow player is still not going to be having any easy time getting rid of his opponent, because of the boars still getting in higher numbers. But finally we have seen the Minotaurs, which is exactly what should be happening. In the meantime, at the top we are seeing a bit of boar raiding at the back TC of Flash. Great idea. Yeah, those villagers are definitely not going to be strong enough to even kill them before the TC is down, but much more importantly, he is, through the flaming weapons and the help of his teammate Joe, pushing forward quite strongly into the red's base, and you can see that red together with purple, they basically lost all the army. Yeah, purple is sending enough reinforcements, but still, he's unable to finish with the towers, and yep, the siege towers right now from the teal player, that's going to be pretty much the deal for this battle. And let's see, maybe there's some kind of trick that Atlas Lions can be put into use in here. So far, looking like not, as Nulgath and Flash are resigning, as they deem the battle to be basically lost. Now we're going into flaming weapons, and that's also a battle lost at the bottom for Zeus's back, because he cannot first get rid of all the boars with just 2 heroes and basically limited mythical units, and then the flaming weapons without any kind of counterplay. That's like, yeah, very hard to deal with. Gathering food at the same spot in the end, those enemies. Interesting. Well, the match is then tied, and a lot of villages and 1 gold mine. Wow, 27. 27 villages at 1 gold mine, with, unfortunately, you can see, this is pretty much the worst position. Even though he is on the long side, so that's correct, he didn't leave the room in there, which basically means that he was preventing about 9 villages from being a bit more efficient right next to it. Yeah, bit of a shame, and something to keep in mind for the next time. And yes, the reset actually works. So I don't need to rotate the map all that much. Well, nicely played. Some red goats at the back. Just something I wanted to check at the very end. So Joe, well, he was in the pocket unraided, so It was not such a great achievement, to be honest, but he did what he needed to do. Defend against Raiden at the start, and then push with Paper Cut at the correct moments. And help with the Ancestors to protect against the Restoration with Narvi. So yep, he didn't do half bad. But otherwise, I would probably be thinking that maybe the opponents were playing slightly better, but in the end, the combination and the gameplay was better by the Teeth of Death. So they deservedly won, of course. Here you can see the advances: 431 for Narvi, 527 for Zeus is back. Would be expecting a lot better gameplay than from Narvi, like a lot easier win for him. You should be, through this, he should be basically killing the economy of the Zeus and not allowing him to amass the army that he did. But he probably took things a bit slowly and wanted to make sure that he isn't surprised by the Zeus playing well, or rather well, above expectations maybe for him. Because he was definitely going for heavy defensive, so he was expecting very bad things from Zeus. But he was lucky. That game, it came, but a bit too late. When Narvi was in a position that he could defend against it already. Well, GG, and the match is tied at 1-1 then.